Trump tried to get people to forgive Bud Light yesterday, the understanding is that he's gotten money from Anheuser-Busch and suddenly wants everyone to forgive. I will tell you, the people who I follow on X are a hard no on it until and unless there's an apology. And the CEO at Bud Light has not issued one. And instead, he's trying to throw his arms around Americana type brands and sort of manly man type products, hoping that the consumer base will just forget about what they did with Dylan Mulvaney, all that. I really think that's a mistake. I really think this guy could find forgiveness if he came out and said, we screwed up, we misjudged our audience, our base, and we want to say out loud, we hear you, we're sorry for the partnership, and we're sorry for this marketing person who said our customers were too fratty, she's been let go, and we hope you'll allow us to make it right. I think people are forgiving, but what they want is forgiveness without the apology. And I don't know. I mean, you tell me whether you think that was well handled.
Well, Megyn, you've brought up the key points in the case. When you have a cohort of 200 young managers and you bring forward those points and they debate this extraordinary economic outcome, and it's really a case of what would you do next when you saw the first viral. Remember, this thing started to happen in 15 hours. It was really remarkable. So the first lesson, I think, is know your customer. Who do you sell your product or service to? In the case of Bud Light, beer is a total commodity. There's nothing different. The only difference is the brand. And what does that brand mean to your consumer? Now, beer, we know the target audience for beer. And we also know that they don't want to be educated on gender neutrality. That's not of interest to them. And so I'm not saying that, the commercial has merit or it doesn't. It's just it doesn't fit. And then, of course, in trying to fix it afterwards, when you saw the really large market declines, that gets down to idiot management. At some point, you're watching billions go out the door in market share and market capitalization. Sure, they whack the marketing people, but, at the end of the day, you're the CEO and you lose billions. I think you have to look at yourself and say, what did I learn from this? And am I going to be able to fix it at all? And of course, the whacking stick came out all over the place. And that's the right thing to do. But the more important lesson to every other CEO of every other S&P 500 company is, look what happened there. Don't let that happen to you. And it continues to happen. Every time you bring this up, and this is what I teach the students, at some point, don't you think you should stop talking about it and move in a different direction? Because not a single chance of anything they've done has worked. Nothing. Everything they've tried hasn't worked. You just see that slow grind down in market share. Keep reminding your customers why they hate you every day. How dumb is that? Is my answer.
It's so true. Okay, so that leads me to our mutual friend, Mark Cuban, who I actually like Mark Cuban, but he's, a controversial figure and he picks fights on X a lot and has a lot of swagger. And he stepped in it recently because he was touting on X how he loves to factor in race and gender into his hiring. And that is still illegal in America. That's not lawful. And one of the commissioners at the EEOC piped in and said, sorry, Mark, EEOC commissioner weighing in here, it's not allowed. It's not allowed as a plus factor, as a bonus, as a consideration. It's against the law. But he's been one of the biggest defenders of this so-called DEI hiring, where we're supposed to prize people's skin color as like an acceptable reason to hire them instead of somebody who looks different or is of a different gender. So I realize everyone's doing it, even though it's unlawful. But I understand that you have a difference of opinion with him on this.
Well, we differ on a lot of things. And I think that's what makes our interaction interesting, certainly on structure of deals and everything else. But I watched the Harvard situation and Bill Ackerman's attacks on other institutions, and there's merit in both sides of that argument. And when I guest lecture at Harvard, it's quite obvious that issue hasn't gone away. You see lots of students still very active on either side. But I look back over time. I've been doing venture capital and investing in private equity for about 25 years now. And in aggregate, we've probably have over 10,000 employees in our companies and our supply chains. And what I've learned actually works in this topic that isn't mandated by government is merit. We hire people on their ability to execute their mandates. We don't look at their gender. We don't look at their color. We don't care about their background. We hire on their ability to do the job. And as a result, we have a massively diverse workforce. I mean, almost every nationality represented, every gender, every background from an ethnicity standpoint. And all we did was hire good people. What's wrong with that is what I say. Why isn't
it's going
that
another
what
way.
we're doing?
You know, I've reported on the show before. I have a friend who's high up at one of the big banks, and he told me personally that he said, we got to get rid of 3 guys. It's, 3 employees, just because we're cutting headcount. And he was told by his supervisor, make sure it's 3 white guys. Like, whatever you do, it's got to be 3 white guys. Do not. That's illegal. But it's, and I both know it's happening.
Yeah, but I think it's very difficult to mandate policy on this. And I understand why you'd want to, but actually what makes companies work and be successful and be able to employ people and support their families over a long period of time is merit, is their ability to do the work. And it never did look, it's blind. It's blind to ethnicity or gender or race. And it should be. I mean, that's how it works. I have no bias other than, can you do the job? And I think, as a half Lebanese Irish immigrant, I mean, I've seen everything, and I've been called everything. But I look at it and say to myself, if we just followed what's good for everybody, I think we'd solve this problem, Megyn, in society. When the government mandates policy and tries to contort what's successful about building a business, it virtually never works.
The pressure to conform to political correctness has undeniably suppressed genuine debate, and it's time we put a stop to it. Enter Freedom 2.0, the unapologetic bottled water company that proudly supports the freedom to speak, freedom to think, and the freedom to listen. We can't afford to remain silent anymore. It's crucial to make our support for the First Amendment crystal clear. And one impactful way to do so is by choosing products from companies that champion our values. Visit freedom20.com and use the code MK for a 15% discount to stand with me and millions of other Americans in celebrating the right to free speech. Remember, freedom is not inherited. It's something we must actively fight for. So raise your voice, grab your bottle of Freedom 2.0 and make a statement. Cheers to Freedom 2.0. That's Freedom 2, the letter O, not Freedom 20, and champion the power of free speech. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.